Here is how a simple rebranding turned Vicks VapoRub into a multi-crore business in India. Drug prices were not regulated in India until 1962. But after the Indo-Chinese War of 1962, the government was afraid that the drug prices might increase due to a shortage of drugs. So in 1964, the government introduced the Drug Price Control Order, or the DPCO. The DPCO basically made it mandatory for any company manufacturing drugs to get prior approval of prices by the government. So if any company wanted to manufacture any kind of allopathic medicine, it had to take the government's approval to set the final MRP of that medicine. This was a move by the government in the favor of the common man, ensuring that medicines remained affordable and accessible. The war in Chinese threat eventually ended, but the price control under DPCO remained in place for the next several decades. And for Vicks, which identified itself as an American allopathic medicine at that time, the DPCO was an absolute nightmare. You see, by the 1980s, Vicks was selling over 8 crore units and it had become incredibly popular in India. But the price and profit control by DPCO meant that Vicks was still barely making any money. They were so desperate that to reduce production costs and actually make some profit, the petroleum base of the VapoRub was replaced with locally sourced oils. This was when Vicks came up with an idea that would change their trajectory in India forever: rebranding Vicks as an ayurvedic product instead of an allopathic drug. Because the DPCO price control had one exception. To encourage our indigenous treatment methods and to further import substitution, 3 medicine categories were excluded from the purview of DPCO: Ayurvedic, Unani, and Homeopathic. This single rebranding activity was an absolute masterstroke. Not only was Vicks now exempt from the DPCO price control and excise duty, but it could now also be sold in non-drug stores, that is your regular kirana and retail stores. And almost immediately, the outlets carrying Vicks tripled to 750,000. And by 1985, India had become the leading producer of Vicks VapoRub among more than 130 countries where Vicks was being sold. But why was a Western brand like Vicks using Ayurvedic ingredients to begin with? And why is Vicks such a big phenomenon in India and across the world that it has grown into a multi-crore business with virtually zero competition? Well, the answer to these questions lies in the story of Vicks itself, which began in the US way back in 1890. Vicks was founded by Lunsford Richardson, a pharmacist who used to experiment with various balms and ointments to cure cold and cough. His balms were inspired by traditional remedies and Eastern medicine, both of which were almost unknown in the West at that time. And his experiments eventually led to the creation of the Vicks Magic Group Salve, which was later renamed Vicks VapoRub. And Vicks was an absolute success in the United States. You see, the common cold can be caused by more than 200 different types of viruses. But what is common about these viruses is that there is no medicine to cure them. Similar to how there was no cure for COVID once you were infected, the only way out of the common cold is to wait for our body's natural immune response to fight it off. But this does not make the symptoms any less discomforting, as sleeping with a cold can be a nightmare. This was exactly where Richardson's Vicks VapoRub came into play. Its unique blend of ingredients like menthol, camphor, and eucalyptus oil offered relief from these symptoms. And Vicks quickly became the go-to remedy for every household in the United States. And since the common cold is indeed quite common, Vicks developed a regular user base of people who kept coming back. And it got an even bigger push in the Spanish flu epidemic of 1918, which was similar to the COVID-19 epidemic and lasted almost 3 years. Eventually, Richardson's small family pharmacy quickly turned into a giant, expanding into countries outside of the US as well. And one of these countries was India, which Vicks entered in 1951 under the subsidiary Richardson Hindustan. If you made it this far, please subscribe to my channel. I promise my content will add value for you. Moving on. In the initial years, the team of Vicks in India was very small, and they adopted an approach that was very different from their approach in the US. You see, in the US, companies like Vicks heavily relied on partnerships with large retail chains and pharmacies to reach consumers. However, at this time, India was still in a very nascent stage and there were no large retail chains to begin with. So Vicks started penetrating the local distributor network instead, relying on wholesalers who already had a network of retailers and shops in place. And here is how it worked. Vicks appointed the largest wholesaler in each major town to become their exclusive stock point and direct customer and called him their stockist. Let's say that Tukaram was one such stockist. Tukaram would always maintain a stock of Vicks Vapor Rub at his warehouse. And then Tukaram also had his own team of salesmen. And this team did the job of visiting individual retail stores, collecting their orders, and then delivering Vicks Vapor Rub from Tukaram's warehouse to these stores. And additionally, Tukaram's salesmen would also visit satellite villages around his city and penetrate these tier 3 and tier 4 markets as well. And they would also conduct local promotions and ad campaigns, essentially marketing Vicks to the local community. So all Vicks had to do was make sure Tukaram had enough stock at all times, and then it was Tukaram's headache to find retailers, do the marketing and convince them to buy Vicks and then deliver Vicks to these retailers. Distributors like Tukaram took a 5% commission in return from Vicks, which Vicks was happy to pay. And just like that, Vicks was able to capitalize on India's existing distributors, going deep into villages and the smallest towns in the country at a very low cost. While the DPCO and price limitation did cause them some trouble, the genius move of rebranding to an ayurvedic medicine eliminated that problem, increasing their after-tax profits from just 1% to 12%. Within 18 months, the share price of Richardson Hindustan had increased from Rs 30 to Rs 400. And then, another turning point came in 1985, when Procter & Gamble, an international behemoth, decided to buy off the Vicks brand from Richardson globally. So with P&G's global expertise and intent, along with higher profit margins, Vicks now began to invest heavily in marketing and advertising in India. And they came up with an extremely thought-out marketing strategy that would go on to cement its place in Indian minds. Vicks capitalized on a very simple yet powerful emotion, which was care. Recognizing the strong bond a mother shares with her child, they positioned Vicks not just as a product, but as a symbol of a mother's care. All their advertising campaigns depicted scenarios of mothers tenderly caring for their children with Vicks Vapor Rub. Recall that there really is no medicine for the common cold, and when her child gets sick, a mother is ready to do anything under the sun to bring relief to the child. So these ads ensured that whenever your child was sick, the relief remedy that instantly popped up in your head was the Vicks Vapor Rub. Now, you might say that this approach was flawed since it had a small target audience, which was just kids, right? Well, not exactly. You see, this approach meant that Vicks was weaved into the emotional fabric of Indian households as a family remedy. People continued using Vicks even after they had grown up, recalling it as their mother's remedy. So over the years, it wasn't just mothers using it on their kids, but everyone in the household using Vicks whenever they caught a cold, because now it was a childhood habit. And Vicks continued with its marketing strategy of emotional branding over the next several decades. The ads often featured relatable domestic settings, where a mother would apply Vicks to her child's chest, soothing them back to health. It eventually also launched the equally successful Vicks lozenges, which were cough drops that were advertised with the same emotional branding strategy. The effects of these emotional connections are so strong that a survey conducted a few years ago revealed that 70% of Indian housewives thought that Vicks was an Indian brand. And Vicks is now the absolute market leader in its category, so much so that there is no real competitor that it has in the Vapor Rub segment. So what can we learn from the market domination of Vicks? While one is definitely the marketing strategy of emotional branding, another takeaway is the concept of consumer lock-in and switching costs. You see, once customers invest in a particular product or service, either financially, emotionally, or through learning how to use it, they are less likely to switch to a competitor because of the costs associated with making the change. And companies that successfully create a high switching cost can secure a long-term competitive advantage. In the case of Vicks, the brand has ensured that people are extremely emotionally invested in the product, so the emotional switching cost for a customer is going to be very high. It is going to be extremely challenging for any of Vicks competitors to just come in and make people believe that there is a better alternative to what their mothers and grandmothers have now been using for generations. If you made it this far, please share this video with one person who you know will find it interesting. And follow me on LinkedIn. The link is in the description below. Until I see you in the next video, goodbye.